Welcome all to another episode of Automation Digest. Today's topic that we want to discuss is about the fastest locator in Selenium with a real-time comparison. Selenium has 8 locators, namely ID, class, tag, name, CSS locator, XPath, link text, and parcel link text. The major comparison that we want to do today is with XPath, class, CSS, and ID. Our intention here is to find out what is the fastest locator that can be used. In most of the articles that you would have read, it would have told you that ID is the fastest. But is that so? Let's find out. Let us say we want to do the experiment on this page itself. So if you see here, there is a frame. If I inspect, I can find few elements which has ID and class. Let's search for it. Perfect. Here it is. So we have something which has an ID and a class. So what we'll try to do is we'll try to find the element with ID, with class, XPath, and CSS. And we'll try to see which is the fastest. All right, let's code. I've already kept things ready for us. So let's get into our experiment directly. What we want to do is we want to calculate the time in between the find element. For that, we want to capture a start time and an end time. The system.current time in millis is assigned to start time and end time, which will give me the time in milliseconds. So if we subtract end time with start time, it will give me the delta or the time taken for the execution in between these two statements. After we calculate that, we can just print that to check which of the locator is faster. All right, so let's take the values. So I have copied the ID for this element and use them in our XPath and CSS as well. Now this is for ID. I will copy the exact same code and replicate it 4 times for different type of locators. Let's the second one be for class, third one for XPath. I will use ID as one of the attribute. The last one would be for CSS. All right, let's execute our code. Perfect. Surprising, right? ID took 29 milliseconds to identify the element. Class also took similar to that number. XPath took 25 milliseconds and CSS took 24 milliseconds. How is that possible? Did we learn everything wrong till now? No, it's not. When we say or read ID is the fastest, what it tries to say is ID is fastest when used correctly in an XPath or CSS. And here's the proof. ID takes 29 milliseconds approximately to execute. And we can run this multiple times. There will be different results, of course, but more or less it will be on the same line. Now, ID and class almost takes same amount of time. Sometimes ID can be faster. Sometimes class can be faster. And if you observe, CSS is faster than XPath. Now, this means ID singularly when used is not the fastest locator. When we use ID, internally, it has a fallback mechanism to go back to CSS, which means even though when we are using ID or class, internally, it gets converted into an XPath or CSS. So, in comparison, CSS is faster than XPath. The reason is again, CSS only follows unidirection or it goes only from top to bottom, whereas XPath is bidirectional, which makes it slower than CSS. ID or class, because it uses a fallback of CSS or XPath, it is not the fastest. But ID are the fastest CSS selector. So if we use the attribute as ID in CSS, it is the fastest. That's all for today. If you like the video, please do like, subscribe, and share. I'll come back with something new in the next episode. Till then, happy coding.